Have you heard of the new overtime compensation threshold? If you have employees on salary, this might impact you. If you have employees on a salary structure, this new law could impact your payroll requirements and even the bottom line profit in your business, so make sure to listen up. Hi everyone, Jamie Trull here, your favorite CPA, giving you all the tools and resources you need to stay informed, organized, and profitable in your business finances. If you're new to this channel, hey, if you want more great updates like this one, make sure to hit the bell icon and like and subscribe. So what's going on with this new rule change? Well, some new guidelines came out from the Department of Labor that are going to be effective July 1st. Okay, so the very first wave starts July 1st of 2024 with another wave scheduled on January 1st of 2025. So what's the big deal with this rule change? Well, this actually changes essentially the definition of what an exempt employee is and changes the threshold of the salary you need to be paying someone for them to be considered an exempt employee from the FLSA. Now, what is the FLSA? Well, that's the Fair Labor Standards Act, and that is what governs overtime and minimum wage and things like that in the United States. And the benefit of having exempt employees is that you don't really have to spend a bunch of time record keeping, figuring out what hours they're working. If they are a salaried employee and they meet the definition of being exempt, then you don't have to pay them overtime, which means you don't have to have them track every hour they're working in the business. So this is preferential and it applies to a lot of white collar jobs. It's often called a white collar exemption. So a lot of administrative jobs, professional jobs, things like that will fall into this exemption. But even if you had this kind of administrative job and you were salaried, you also had to make above around $35,500 in order to be an exempt employee. If you made under that, regardless of the type of work that you did, you'd be considered non-exempt, which would mean your employer would have to track your hours and pay you overtime at time and a half for anything that you worked over 40 hours. So what do those changes look like? Well, pre this new rule, again, the exemption threshold was $35,500. However, as of July 1st, 2024, that number has increased. Now the exemption is $43,888. But that's not the end of it, because remember, I said they're going to stair step this. So there is going to be another increase in this threshold that will take effect on January 1, 2025, at least as it is set out right now. And that's where we're going to have an even bigger jump in the threshold to $58,656. Now that's pretty significant because in the span of just 6 months, we're going to be going from 35,000 as the threshold to over 58,000 as the threshold. So if you have employees that are exempt employees currently or have previously been considered exempt employees, and they fall into that zone from a full year salary perspective, well, this is something that's probably going to impact you. Now, importantly, if you live in a state that already has minimums above the federal threshold, which include California, Colorado, New York, and Washington, then this isn't something you're going to have to worry about because you already have a threshold that is higher than the current federal minimum and is higher than what the minimum will be moving to as of January 1st. But if you live anywhere else and you have employees making within that salary range, then this likely is something that you're going to want to be paying attention to. So what all does this mean for small businesses? Well, you're probably going to need to review your payroll practices to make sure you stay in compliance. And you're also probably going to have to determine if this is going to impact your bottom line. The Department of Labor is expecting that more than 4 million employees are now going to be eligible for overtime that previously were exempt. So that definitely could impact you. And the current estimate of the cost of this on employers is about $1.5 billion. So not only is this a good time for you to take a look at your payroll processes and look at your budget specifically for what you're paying employees, but also to just generally look at the profit strategy of your business to make sure that you can stay profitable. If that's something you're interested in, I did a video recently all about profit planning in your business. Definitely check out that video or go grab my profit plan worksheet, which is linked down below. So what are the things that you should do right now to make sure you're compliant, well, go and check and see if you have any exempt employees that fall into that salary range that's being affected. So anywhere between $35,000 and $58,000. Again, we're talking about salaried employees here, not employees who are working on an hourly basis or whose pay is already tied to how much they work. So this is a good time to really just re-look at your employment and see if it still makes sense with what you need, and look at whether you need to change salary levels or maybe even change around jobs a little bit and the roles within your business, or pull jobs apart and turn them into multiple different roles. Again, that's completely up to you, but this is a good time to sit down and see if you are affected and if you want to change anything related to your business. Now, in general, I do not recommend going and making a whole bunch of full-scale changes right this second. I think we want to give this a little bit of time to make sure that it's going to stick, and I'll talk about that here in just a minute. However, I definitely think it is a good time to just assess your employment situation and use this as that impetus to make changes that maybe you already know you need to make. And the next thing that I would do is really figure out, how are you going to track this? If you're not tracking hours for some of these employees and you realize that they may end up not being exempt anymore once these changes in thresholds are in place, then I want you to think about how you could time track for them. Is that something that you want to do? Do you need to look into a system for that? Because that might be a big change, not just for you, but also for your employee. In this process, you'll want to make sure that you are giving them the tools that they need in order to be successful, and the tools that you need in order to make sure that you're properly tracking those overtime compliance rules. And the one thing that I plan to do, and I recommend this for you as well, is to go in and update your employee handbook. So I'm going to be going into mine, looking at what it says from an overtime perspective, and I'm going to be putting in some rules that overtime, even for salaried employees, needs to be approved. And so by putting that in there, the hope is that we're encouraging people not to take additional overtime, and that if they do need to do it, I am aware of it so that I can budget for it. Now, could things change? Sure, of course. I think that's the elephant in the room here, is that we're talking about a rule that was changed by the Department of Labor under the Biden-Harris administration, and we're in election year first and foremost, and it could also be challenged by the courts potentially to say that they did not have the authority to change these rules. Now, it is pretty standard practice for specific departments. They have been delegated authority by Congress to make certain clarifications, updates, things like that to these types of rules. However, at times they may be seen as overstepping, right? Maybe this is too big of an increase. These thresholds have changed over time, and they do tend to change depending on who is in office and who is leading the Department of Labor. So could we see changes in this? Absolutely. Do I still think it's a good idea to be prepared for this? Yes, I do. And I do think that especially for the rest of 2024, this is something you're going to want to be in compliance with, okay? So don't plan on this getting overturned or changed anytime soon. I'm always a fan of going ahead and putting the processes in place that need to be there. But again, don't make any huge full-scale decisions based on just this information. Always make decisions on what you do in your business based on what's actually best in your business, and not these types of hemming and hawing of rule changes. If you have questions specifically on how this impacts you, you might want to reach out to your payroll company or to your CPA and just start that conversation as well before making any big changes. And of course, I also recommend having a profit plan. And this is just something that's helpful in general to make sure that you are managing your profit in your business so that it's meeting your business and personal goals. So definitely go check out jamietrull.com/profit plan to grab your free worksheet. Now, if you're listening to this thinking, I don't even know where my business finances stand right now, how am I supposed to deal with this as well? Well, I've got something for you. Definitely check out the video right here next, because I'm going to walk you through how to get your business finances organized and how to read and understand them. And as always, as things change, I'll be right here on this channel giving you the updates. So make sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss a thing.